not just about being able to hit a weight. It's about training with the weights that you level up to. I want to see a PR. I want it to look like, dude, you own that fucking belt, even though it was the first time you ever used it. I don't want to see like, dude, you looked really unsafe doing that weight. Like, please don't do that again for a little while. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. Coach Sean here. And today I wanted to talk about scaling up your kettlebell weight, specifically in the Turkish Getup. For any guy who's gone through our program or any guy who's thinking about going through our program, our focus on the Turkish Getup is one of the most important things that we do inside of KT. Now, the reason for that is because the Turkish Getup is kind of like an elixir. It fixes movement patterns. It builds joint stability. It increases mobility, flexibility. It just makes guys move so much better. And oftentimes it can really reduce the amount of joint pain or even eliminate joint pain in things like shoulders or back or knees or hips that guys come into our program experiencing. So getting strong and skilled with the Turkish Getup has massive payoff, not just for training with kettlebells, but just for life in general. Can't tell you how many men I've talked to who have said that they hit the ball further or get, through their backswing better in golf because of the fact that they're doing Turkish Getups. Or, the amount of guys who have just said, hey, my shoulder doesn't hurt me anymore from doing Turkish Getups. And I was really worried about them at the start. Now, the reason I wanted to film this quick little podcast is because I've seen a pattern pretty consistently in KT with guys leveling up with their Turkish Getup. And so I wanted to kind of talk through that pattern as well as give some recommendations for guys who are just getting started with the Turkish Getup or who have felt themselves getting stronger and kind of wondering like, okay, so what's next and what should I be expecting as I continue to get stronger and stronger with the Getup? And so pretty predictably, the pattern that we see for the men who go through our first 16-week program, which of course is very focused on Turkish Getups, two-hand swings. But in that program, guys are doing Turkish Getups 4 days a week. So 2 of the days they're working with single rep Getups. They're just doing 5 sets of single rep Getups, and they're using a combination of a moderate bell and a heavy bell. And then the other 2 days a week, the guys in our program are doing multi-rep Getups, meaning they're doing 2 or even 3 in a row without setting the bell down with just their moderate bell. And they'll do that for the first 8 weeks. And then in the next 8 weeks, they'll level up and they'll essentially retire their moderate bell. And the heavy bell from the first 8 weeks will now become the bell that they're doing their multi-rep Getups with 2 days a week. And they bring in a new, very heavy bell that they're going to use to start to layer into their days where they're doing single rep Getups. So now over the course of the second 8 weeks, they're going to go from being able to do 5 rounds with their heavy bell of single rep Getups to all 5 rounds with their very heavy bell. Now, this is exactly the system that we've used to take men from, I would say a pretty common starting point is that in onboarding, which is the first 2 weeks where guys are doing a lot of one-on-one sessions with their coach, they're usually able to do 35-pound Turkish Getups by the time that they learn the technique right and they really feel like they're understanding how the movement is supposed to feel. Some guys might be able to even hit a 44-pound. Maybe guys who have experience with bells and who are just strong already, maybe they're able to even hit a 53-pound Turkish Getup in onboarding. Though I would say that the 35 and the 44 is much more common. And I think that serves typically as a pretty typical starting point for the moderate bell for a guy. They're going to start with probably the 35-pound for their moderate or the 44-pound for their moderate, which would mean that the heavy bell would be the next bell up, usually in a 4-kilogram jump. So if I started with a 35-pound bell, it's a 16 kilogram for my moderate. Probably my heavy is going to be a 20 kilogram or 44 pounds. If I'm able to start with my moderate bell being a 20 kilogram, meaning like within the first couple of workouts in the program, I'm going to be doing 2 in a row with the 44-pound, 20 kilogram bell, which definitely some guys can start there. More common to start with the 16K, but some guys can start there. Then that would mean that your heavy bell would be the 24 kilogram, which is a 53-pound bell. And so what you choose as your moderate and your heavy ends up pretty much determining what is going to be your very heavy. because your very heavy is typically going to be a 4 kilogram jump from the heavy bell. So if you did, let's say, hypothetically, you did 16 kilogram for your moderate, 20 kilogram for your heavy, you would then have 24 kilogram for your very heavy. Maybe you start with a 20 and a 24 for your moderate and heavy, and you go to a 28 kilogram for your very heavy in the second phase. Now, we have had some guys not have a 28 kilogram, and so they start 20, 24, and then their very heavy ends up being a 32 kilogram. That has also been achieved by a number of men who have gone through our program, especially for guys who have a history lifting weights, move pretty well already. They're not really locked up. They might not have a lot of joint pain issues that they're dealing with. And also generally guys, I would say, that are like under 50. That's not to say that guys over 50 can't get super freaking strong and do 44, even 48 kg get-ups. It's just to say that I've typically seen that guys under 50 have an opportunity to get to those bells maybe faster and just generally come with less locked up frames and maybe not less joint pain issues, but probably just more mobility and a better ability to recover and build strength more quickly. It's not a blanket that 50. So if you're over 50, you still get strong as fuck. Now, here's what I see happen extremely consistently inside of our program, especially guys who are like driven men, right? Like, I got something to prove, don't hold me back type of guys, which honestly is many of the men that join our program. Our program is an expensive one-on-one coaching program. It's meant for guys who are crushing it in their careers. So they're probably already like that. They're probably already driven men who have leveled up in their careers and been promoted or started their own businesses and grown them. And so they bring that same attitude into their kettlebell training, right? I'm going to crush this. I'm going to go fast. I'm going to see results quickly. And so what'll happen is typically, as a guy gets going in his Turkish Getups, he's able to get to the 24 kilogram, which is a 53-pound bell. Usually guys can get there pretty quickly. And then they'll be able to hit the 28 and the 32 kg, usually pretty quickly as well. It's really, really common for a guy to be able to get to a 32 kilogram, which is 70 pounds, within his first 16-week program inside of KT. Now, he might not be training with the 32 kilogram, meaning like his workouts, he's using that bell. But by the end of the 16-week progression, even if he went 16 for moderate, 20 for heavy, and 24 for very heavy, by the end of the 16 weeks, by the time that he's done doubles and triples with the 20 kilogram for 8 weeks, and he's leveled up to all 5 rounds with the 24 kilogram for his very heavy bell, he very likely at the end of that is going to be able to get down on the ground with a 32 kilogram bell and do a serviceable Turkish Getup with that weight. So then the fun kind of starts. Now, some guys might be able to get to that 32 and actually train with it. That has happened as well. But the fun really starts here because at this point, guys are feeling really strong and they're like, damn, I'm using a bell that I probably at the start of KT could have never thought that I would be able to use at all. And now I'm using it only 4 short months later. Again, that's the power of simplicity and focusing on a few key tasks in the lifting realm and then having a smart progression where you're doing a lot of time under tension. You're just doing a lot of volume. And so that stacks up over time and it unlocks a level of strength along with the improvement in skill. But what I have typically seen for guys is like, it's really easy once you start doing the movement and once you get the movement right, assuming that you're not really locked up, it's really easy to get to the 53-pound kettlebell. Most guys are going to get there in their first 8 weeks probably. And, unless they're starting with no lifting history, older, locked up, and maybe in pain as well. Then it might take longer for sure. But I see that getting to the 53-pound, that's just like a skill unlock. It's like you're doing the movement better. But that amount of weight is just not that much weight when you consider, that most guys doing the program are probably 175 pounds all the way up to, 300 pounds. But just if you look at it as a percentage of body weight, like 50, let's say that the average weight of a guy joining KT is 200 pounds. Well, it's only 25% of their body weight at that point, right? So it's not a massive amount of weight. Now, when a guy gets to a 32 kilogram, it's like the jump from 16 to 20 to 24 to 28 to 32. That progression tends to happen fairly linear and pretty fast. And what I see is guys think that that linear progression is going to continue essentially forever. So, very quickly after they get to the 32, they're then trying to get to the 36. And once they hit the 36, they're very quickly trying to get to the 40, right? How quickly can I get to the 44? How fast can I get to the 48? And the reason I actually wanted to film this quick little rant on choosing Turkish Getup weight and what your expectation needs to be is that what I have seen is once you reach the 32 kilogram, you may be able to then go do a 36. You may even be able to do a 40 within maybe right away, or maybe within, a couple weeks, you're unlocking those bells as you just continue to get more reps under your belt. However, that is not how I would advise approaching your progression, because once you get to the 32 kilogram and you want to level up above that, it becomes more and more important for you to take the time to really own each bell in the progression. And so when I see guys reaching for that 95, 98% of their max when they're going for, say, a 36 or a 40, yet they've barely done any 32 kilogram get-ups, I'm always like, all right, that's cool. Like, it's awesome that you were able to do that. Typically, when I watch a video of a guy doing that, the get-up looks pretty shaky. Like, he doesn't really own that weight. And it's like, okay, now you know what it feels like, but just put that baby back down and have it stare at you for the next 6 months while you take the bell that you should be training with, your heaviest 1 rep max, and you go back down below that to the bell that you should be doing your time under tension with. And so if you're a guy in the program and you find yourself reaching for those heavier bells and always thinking like, when am I going to hit my next PR? What I would challenge you to do is to reframe what is going to actually get you strong long-term, because too often I have seen men come into this program hot, level up to the 32, 36, 40, always pushing the gas, right? I'm going to hit that 40K in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to hit that 40K by Thanksgiving. It's like, dude, it's not just about being able to hit a weight. It's about training with the weights that you level up to. When I want to see a PR, I want it to look like, dude, you own that fucking belt, even though it was the first time you ever used it. I don't want to see like, dude, you looked really unsafe doing that weight. Like, please don't do that again for a little while. That's not impressive. So if like that's what you're aiming for, no one here is impressed. I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm just saying like, what's impressive is when a guy takes the time to really own every bell in the progression, understanding that once you get above the 28 kg, like, and you're getting to the 32, okay, you need to settle in there. You need to spend time. I would strongly encourage you to think about, I'm going to do the time under tension progression, which is an 8-week progression with every bell from the 28 to the 32 to the 36 to the 40. Because if you do that, which means like we're talking, okay, if I'm going to go from, by the time you're doing a time under tension progression, meaning you're able to do multiple reps with, say, the 28 kilogram bell. By the time you can do multiple reps with the 28 kilogram, that means that you're going to be able to do a single for sure with the 32 kilogram and probably be able to hit a 36 kilogram, although it's probably going to be kind of shaky. So at that point, you have a decision, right? Do I train with the 32 and the 36, or do I train with the 28 and the 32? Well, if you have not taken the time to go through a full progression, like a full 8 weeks, doing time under tension, getting a lot of doubles and triples with the 28 kilogram while you slowly work in the 32 kilogram into your singles, then you should not train with the 36. And you for sure should not fucking go for a 40 kg Turkish Getup PR, even though many men will do that. And it's okay, you might hit that 40 kg, but that doesn't mean you've unlocked that bell. And it certainly doesn't mean that you should train with the 36 either, because you haven't taken time to do your multi-reps with the 28. So I would encourage you, do your multi-reps with the 28, do your singles with the 32. And then once you get done with that, pull that 36 down into your singles, take that 32 and do your multis there. And then once you go through 8 weeks of that, pull the 40 down into your singles and do your multis with the 36. And if you do that, then you will have 8 weeks of multi-rep get-ups with the 28, 8 weeks with the 32. So that's 4 full months. 8 weeks with the 36, 8 weeks with the 40. So that's 8 full months. So even though you probably could have hit a 40 kg, and maybe you even did hit a 40 kg PR, you still spent a whole 8 months leading up to doing multi-reps at the 40. And by that time, if you really do it like that, you'll be able to do a 48 kilogram Turkish Getup, and you'll do it and it'll look pretty easy. It won't be like you barely eked it out and now my shoulder hurts me for the next week. And oh, maybe by the way, I can't even load a bell up on my forearm because of how fast I progressed through and tried to get to those heavier belts. I have seen multiple times guys progress extremely quickly up to the 40 kg, even 44, even 48. They'll do it too fast. They won't take the time to own the bells underneath. They'll put a 48 kg on their forearm and do a get up and submit a video of them doing a really shaky 48 kg get up. And then all of a sudden they can't put any weight on their forearm. And once that happens, you're in trouble. That will last for weeks, months before you're able to start loading up again and progressing. So my point in this whole rant is, to me, it is much more impressive, but also just way fucking smarter to take your time to level up. Because I promise you, once you get to the 48 kg, like, there's not a whole lot more room to go for most guys. You probably don't even want to go much higher if you're not doing this to like be a professional kettlebell guy. You just want to be strong and functional. Like, there's not much more to go after the 48. A lot of guys can get to the 56 for sure. I've seen 2 or 3 men that I can count. I've trained a lot of humans who can do heavier than a 56 kg Turkish Getup. And like, there's probably not a whole lot of point in that either. So take your time, focus on multi-rep PRs. Focus on, dude, I can do triples with the 28 kg. That's more badass to me than a guy hitting a 40 kg PR. Truly, it really is. Same thing for 48. And the reason I bring this up, and I won't drop his name, but one of our clients very recently hit a 40 kg PR, and it was awesome. It was great. It was a little shaky, but it was a good rep. And we were talking to him about that, and he messaged us, and he was like, yeah, I think I had the 48 kg by Thanksgiving. And I was just like, dude, fucking don't do that. Like, you might be able to, but don't aim for that. Don't have that be the thing that you're eyeing. Like, I would advise you to take the next 8 months and not even think about the 48 kg. Only think about, because he hadn't had any time where he had done multi-reps with the 28. Maybe he had the 28. Maybe he was doing multis with the 28 and his singles with the 32. That could have been it. But I think he was doing his multis with the 24 and his singles with the 28. And he just happened to go for a 40. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I don't want you thinking, ooh, the next thing I'm going to hit is a 48 kg PR. I want you thinking, dude, I'm going to be doing triples with a 32 kg by Thanksgiving. That would be badass. And you'll stay really healthy and strong, and you'll feel really good, and you'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. If you ever listen to any of Grant's stuff, he talks about the goal is to continue to pull the next heaviest bell down into your 80% effort, maybe 85% effort. The only way to do that is to take your time to get really freaking strong with the bells that are in your 70% max effort range and your 80%. It's not going up and training with the 95. That's not how you do it. You pull it down by just wearing out the bells underneath. So anyway, I think I've hit the point that I wanted to hit. I hope this was useful. If you're in a position where, you find yourself pushing for that next bell, I would encourage you to think that the real unlock is doubles and triples, with the bell 1, 2, or even 3 bells below the PR bell that you're aiming for. That's what's actually going to get that bell. And also, PRs that are super wobbly and shaky, they're just not that cool. It'd be way cooler if the PR was clean and I watched it, or your coach watched it and he was like, are you sure that was the right weight? Because that looked too damn easy. That's what you want to unlock. And also, not just for looking for style points, but like, that's what will keep you healthy. That's what will keep you feeling fresh and motivated to train. And the beauty of it is, like, when you're training in that way, your training sessions don't seem aggressively daunting. Like, you're not looking at it being like, fuck, I don't even think I'm going to be able to do this session. You don't want that. That is not the attitude that we want to bring into our training, because eventually you hit a wall, and no one wants to hit a wall. Train smart, focus on time under tension, focus on multi-reps with your moderate weight bell, and, seek a long game attitude. If you do it the right way, you're eventually going to get up to the 48 kg. Pretty much any guy can make that happen. Pending movement restrictions, age, but pretty much any guy is going to be able to get to 44, 48 kg if they just take the time to do it right. And if you do, you're going to be able to train with all the bells. And if you do that, the level of strength, the level of body comp results, the level of habit and skill that you will build by doing that, rather than trying to grasp for those heavy bells too fast, it will be something that'll forever change your fitness. And that's the real goal, right? Is like to actually install a real sustainable set of habits around your training. Because if you do that, then you're always going to do this. And that is the real payoff of going through a system like KT. So hope this helps. And also hope you're having a great day. If you're watching this on video, I'm not even wearing sleeves right now. And that's the way I like it. Have a great day and have fun doing some Turkish get-ups, time under tension. All right, peace.